Up to the 1920s, this area was known as Stinking Corner because of the seaweed and dead creatures that were dumped by the tides to decay and pollute the air. The marine lake was originally opened in 1929 after a long campaign by Councillor Frederick Nutting to improve the area. But success for the venture only came when he purchased the foreshore rights and shamed the council into building the lake. In its heyday, swimmers would dress using the numerous changing rooms available and could then enter the water by means of a diving board, a springboard or even a slide. There were rowing and paddling boats for hire, and deck chairs were available at the paddling pool end, where families could sit and chat whilst watching the kids enjoying the water. But just 2 years after the opening, reports were appearing in the local paper that the lake was leaking. Last year, the first part of the Heritage Lottery Fund application to finally repair the leaking lake was successful, and £40,000 was made available to undertake a detailed marine engineering assessment of the sea wall. But first the sluice gate had to be opened and the lake drained. Then the inspectors would move in the following week. The plan was that the seafront attraction would remain empty for about 7 days until it was refilled by the higher tides that were expected during the following weekend. As part of the lottery bid, visitor numbers needed to be recorded, so pedestrian counters were installed at both ends of the lakeside promenade, although there seemed to be no way of telling whether the passing walker was a holidaymaker or a local just out to walk the dog. One group of locals who seemed to be pleased with the empty lake were our feathered friends who seemed to find many tasty morsels among the mud and detritus.
Oh, that's a bin up on the
Oh, that's what's missing from the
top. That's what's missing up there, I can see it.
Oh, right. I wonder where it got to.
Where are we going to stash the heavy stuff?
I'll carry them up to and put them beside
the following day, volunteers from the Marine Lake enthusiast group Marlins turned up to clear the more inedible items.
Well, it's all in aid of cleaning the lake so that and getting our outer wall inspected so we can make our HLF bid. We hope to get some lottery fund money to help repair the lake. Anyway, on with the cleaning. We've been cleaning out the lake for two reasons. One is to get some of the rubbish out of the bottom.
It's a bit of laminate floor.
We haven't quite finished, but we've got a lot of it out. So the lake is a lot cleaner for people who want to sail and swim and canoe.
Dripping slime as I go. Yuck.
The second reason was we had to clear the rubbish from around the wall so that the engineers could do a survey of the wall, see what its condition is and work out how best to repair it.
There's not much out there. But if
Marlens is working with North Somerset Council, Clevedon Town Council, the Pier Trust, the Gig Club, the Canoe Club, the Sailing Club and the Civic Society on a Heritage Lottery Fund bid to get enough money to repair the outer wall properly, something that will last 20 or 30 years before we need to spend more serious money on it.
Yeah. Mike has as well.
Yeah, Mike's done the close to the wall, the big glass and stuff, but I've been all along where they are now.
Right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, that's good.
For those who spend a lot of their leisure time swimming and boating in the lake, this must have been a pleasing sight. For several days these two Earthmovers seemed to enjoy themselves scraping the glutinous mud from the concrete floor and tipping it over the wall into the sea. Although the observer has to wonder just how long it will be before it all gets returned, presumably at the next high tide or during one of our frequent rough seas. The lottery bid is being led by the North Somerset Council, whose representatives spent some time inspecting the scene whilst our cameras were there. Meanwhile, over by the lake's sea wall, the task of drilling into the structure had begun. The object of the exercise was to obtain some core samples that could be sent off to be analysed and thereby give the structural engineers an idea of what the wall was made of. Finally, another man was undertaking a topographical survey of the whole site, not only here on the lakeside path, but also over by the sea wall as well. At the end of a busy week, it was clear that the mud clearance had only been partially successful, and a future clearing session would be needed. But the question on everyone's mind now was, what happens next?
What happens next is, very shortly, the engineer who's been studying the wall will come back with a engineering proposal which will be the basis of our submission to the HLF, Heritage Lottery Fund. So he, I think, has come up with some new ideas on the best way to repair the wall, and we look forward to finding out that it will cost us less than we thought in the first place, we hope.
And any timescale, idea of timescale?
Oh, we've asked him to come back by the end of March with the proposals, and then we'll be working through to put in a submission to the HLF by the middle of September. So it's all a very tight timescale. Basically, we've got to have the whole thing sorted by the end of August, because it takes a little while to do the paperwork.
Finally, on Sunday evening, nature took its course, and a high tide once again filled our lake with water. But when will we finally know if the funding is going to happen?
I think it would be beginning of next year, probably, before we find out whether we've got the money. And if we've got the money, it would probably be middle or more likely the autumn winter of next year before we actually do the work. But that's, details to be sorted. Essentially, we're pressing on as quickly as we can, but realistically, we're not going to get the repairs in place before 2014, I don't think, for the 2014 season.